Hello, my name is Alicia Shapiro with AiNews.com, and welcome to another episode of Driving Tomorrow Conversations with Industry Leaders, where we explore the latest developments and newest innovations in the world of artificial intelligence. We are thrilled to have Andy Hopkinson, the executive producer at Future Deluxe, join us today. Future Deluxe is a global creative studio known for its visionary approach, blending technology, design, and extraordinary storytelling. They operate from major cities around the world, including London, Los Angeles, New York, and Sydney, crafting aspirational experiences for future facing brands. Andy plays a pivotal role in integrating cutting edge technology with his creative processes, overseeing a wide range of products from augmented and virtual reality to innovative web experiences. His leadership not only drives Future Deluxe's ambitious projects, but also shapes the next generation of creative talent within the industry. Today, we'll explore how Future Deluxe stays at the leading edge of the digital creative field, Andy's insights on maintaining innovation and quality at scale, and his views on the future of creative technologies. Thank you for joining us today, Andy.
No worries. Thank you for inviting me. Very excited to
Yeah,
chat through everything.
me too. Yeah, let's get started. So, Future Deluxe, as we mentioned earlier, is recognized for its dedication to crafting aspirational content with a forward thinking approach. Could you discuss how the company's commitment to creativity, technology, and a diverse team influences the selection of products and creative strategies that you use? And how do you specifically leverage that technology and AI to push the boundaries of creativity in your projects?
Yeah, it's a really good question. So I think the main thing that we have here at Future Deluxe is that we're technology agnostic. So
Mm.
rather than sort of studios that are like focusing on a particular piece of technology, we actively encourage everyone here to explore all the different varieties of pieces of software, new AI tools, all this kind of thing. One of the ways we do that is through a really lovely initiative that we have called Future Play, which essentially means that all artists across the studio, creative directors, art directors, everyone gets 2 days a month that they can spend on anything that they want.
Oh,
So that
fun.
means that we have, yeah, it's awesome. What's really cool about it for me is the only the only thing that we say is right, whatever you create, no matter whether it's a failure, whether it worked really well, you have to post it on our Slack channel. So
Oh,
we have this amazing channel that is just filled with these absolutely stunning explorations that people have had. Sometimes, like we have this week, there's a specific brief which is given to everyone in the studio, which is like, right, we want to explore this. What are the cool ways that we can have a look at it? And then other times it's people are just given a complete free reign. So that means that I'm a massive AI fanboy, and I joined here and was really excitedly telling people about these new tools that I've been playing around with and everything like that. And people were just like, oh yeah, no, we've done that before. Like we've already used that on like X amount of projects and all this sort of thing. So I think that kind of that culture, which just encourages people to explore those new aesthetics, encourages people to explore new technologies and new pieces of software, just means that we already have that experience before we then move into using that on a particular project with a client. So it's
yeah.
good fun.
I love that. That's so great. Because you think of AI and then you think of being technical, but then there's all this creativity with it too. So that's exciting.
100%, definitely.
Mhm.
And I think as well, like what AI we found it enables things like Comfy UI. You can create these almost like new aesthetics. Like they're incredible to kind of you put in parameters and then you let the system create these assets themselves. And it's amazing to see what it comes up with. And some of the things is like things you might not have thought of before. So it's
Mhm.
really interesting to try and find new aesthetics in that way. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's great. And you're someone who loves the cutting edge technology. So how do you integrate the latest advancements in augmented reality and virtual reality and web XR into your projects to enhance the storytelling and user engagement?
Yeah, so a lot of the kind of exploration that I was just talking about comes into play. But I think one of the things that we do a lot here is a project comes in and it might be kind of traditional CGI, and a client might have a specific idea around how they want to bring something to life. Um, but we essentially just always open that up to the wider team, and let people just think about if there's different new ways that we could bring something to life. So a lot of the things that we're doing at the moment is we create lots of like super high fidelity CGI product films and all that
Mm.
sort of thing for some really interesting brands. And now we're taking that a step further, and we're exploring how you could bring that into the retail space with really interesting installations, really interesting like experiential projects that take those assets and make them in the physical world as well. So it's something that's kind of actively encouraged on the inquiries that we get in, and yeah, it's really exciting to have a look at that kind of thing.
I love that. Yeah, that's great. And you're the executive producer, but you also mentor emerging talent, and you manage large teams across your global offices. So how do you foster that culture of learning and innovation that aligns with your company's vision and values? Does operating in all the major cities influence the creative output and qualities you look for in talent to ensure that they can thrive in the, internationally influenced creative environment?
Yeah, definitely. So I think there's a couple of things. We have one P&L across the whole company. So I think some places I've worked, it can be a little bit trickier to work across the offices, and resources are kind of might be gatekept a little bit. What's really lovely here is the fact that it's there's none of that at all. We can tap
That's
into
great.
resources, any resources that we need across the world. And often it will be a collaboration, us in Sydney or us in New York or whatever. Um, and I think that works really well, and it means you get some really interesting results when you have people from really diverse backgrounds working with each other.
Mm.
Um, I think the other thing as well is just the type of people who we want to hire at Future Deluxe, which is people who are really interested in new things and have that kind of ambition to explore new things. Really helps. But mentoring people, just making sure that people know that there's never terrible questions, and just encouraging people that if they're ever unsure about anything, that they can always ask. And I think all of those things kind of nicely tie together.
That's awesome. Sounds like it's a great place to work too, because you have the
It's
creative
really nice.
freedom and
It's awesome. It's
yeah,
awesome. This is like I'm like 2 months in now, and it is absolutely fantastic. I'm really really enjoying myself.
that's awesome. Yeah. And you have a special spot for establishing new processes that benefit your team. Could you share a specific example where you had a new process that you implemented and it significantly impacted your team's productivity and outcomes?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, I think I'm a big believer in removing as much as possible, sort of like manual data entry. And I
Yeah.
think across the kind of different companies that I've worked for, I think the main thing that I always try and have a look at is how can you get systems to speak to each other? How can you make it so that you can enter something once, and then that is then replicated across loads of different systems. So in my previous role at Territory Studio, that's a big thing that I did, which was just ensure that we had systems speaking to each other, so that when you entered something in, it could live there, and then it could live across different systems as well. So that's one of the main things that makes me really happy process wise.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's so important. Creating, taking out the redundancies is, yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
it's, those are
No one
kind of
likes
annoying.
entering something in 4 or 5 times.
Right. Yeah. Um, but I have a question. So with the creation of AI tools like Sora, that
Mhm.
allows people to create text to video through AI, what advice would you give to individuals looking to produce professional quality videos on their own? Do you see these tools affecting the future of creative post-production in the industry?
Yeah, I think it's a really interesting question. I
Mm.
think it's going to be really interesting to see when Sora becomes publicly available.
Yeah.
I think I've done lots and lots of reading about it, and there's some really interesting articles which talk about the fact that in some of the films that they created, it can be like 300 iterations that they had to go through in order to get a shot that was perfect for it. So
Well,
obviously,
yeah.
with that in so with that in mind, right, it's still not a kind of click of the fingers and you've got something that perfectly works. There's still,
Yeah.
like with Midjourney and all these other tools, there's this kind of there's this process that you have to go through in order to get there. Now,
Hmm.
I think what's really exciting is the fact that even if you have to do 300 iterations to get to a shot that you really love, that's still going to be a lot cheaper and that's still going to be a lot faster than going out and physically shooting it. I think
Yeah.
there's going to be this. It's going to be really interesting to see how things play out. I feel like eventually we'll get to a point in the same way smartphones and the fact that smartphones gave everyone the ability to take photos and videos
Mm.
with a handheld device, right? That
Hmm.
means that the kind of it means that everyone has access to tools that can create these really amazing things. However, the invention of the smartphone hasn't removed production companies who are creating, high-end films and video content and all this kind of thing. And I feel like the same thing's going to happen with tools like Sora. It will mean that the really cheap, really quick stuff that has to happen, I think will be quite quickly replaced. I
Hmm.
think that it will raise the bar for everyone. I think that if that means that creating film content is then a lot easier for everyone, I think that's where kind of what I'm really excited by with the kind of immersive experiential background is how do you then differentiate yourself as a brand if people can make lots of films and things like that more easily. And that's where I think it becomes really interesting using mixed reality, using AI tools,
Yeah.
um, taking things to the next level to then differentiate yourself as a brand. That for
Yeah.
me is going to be the really, really interesting space.
Yeah. I think you're onto something there because you know, if you can blend a couple of different tools into
Yeah,
creating your
yeah,
videos and stuff, that's not going to be available to most people, so
yeah,
they're not going to know how
absolutely.
to do that. Yeah.
And
Okay.
I
Well,
think
that's
just on
good. Yeah,
that as sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say I was worried that Sora was going to put you guys on this business.
No, I really don't think so. I think
Hmm.
the other thing that I think is really interesting is um, in the films that Sora have created, almost all of them have included a post-production process, and almost all of them have
Oh.
included like a visual effects process as well. And I think that where we're really well placed here is the fact that because we already tinker with all these tools, because we're playing around with these new technologies all the time, it's going to be people who can take these new tools that come out, augment them, change them, work within the difficult, like there's some things they're amazing at, there's some things they aren't very good at. So being able to take that and then augment it and use the tools we already use on top of that to create even better content, I think that's what's really exciting. I feel like that kind of hybrid approach of existing tools with the new ones is going to create the best stuff. There will be
Mhm.
people who only use the new tools, but I don't think they're going to be able to get as good a creative result. But who knows, right? We'll have to wait and see when it comes out.
No, I think you're right, but I think most people don't realize that those Sora videos that have been released have had post-production
Yeah,
things added.
yeah.
You just assume, "Oh, you just push a button and then voila," you
I
know?
think I think that's it's a really good point, right? I think that the challenge around lots of these kind of AI tools and things like that at the moment is there is a lot of hype around it, and I
Mhm.
think that we're going to end somewhere where um, it isn't as fundamentally changes absolutely everything. Is I think some people are kind of hyping it. It will
Mhm.
be somewhere between the middle of the naysayers and the people who are particularly keen on it. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, so we'll have to see.
Yeah. Kind of building off of that and looking ahead, what are some of the most exciting trends or technologies that you believe will revolutionize the creative industry? And how is Future Deluxe preparing to adapt to and lead the future landscape?
Yeah, so I think we are really excited to basically integrate any new technologies which come about. And I
Hmm.
think that with the pace of how things are moving at the moment, you can't predict what's going to be out in 6 months, right? You know,
Right.
we just had the latest OpenAI announcement, and you've now got the ability to have a conversation with their voice, and you know the latency is like 0 point whatever
Yeah.
milliseconds or something, which is
Hmm.
like mind blowing. And we people already thought that that might be 6 months down the line or a year down the line.
Yeah.
So I think it's really difficult to predict exactly how things will change. But I think kind of going back to what I said earlier, what I'm particularly excited about is the fact that I think this is going to mean that clients and brands are going to have to they're going to have to do more within their marketing and more within their advertising to stick out from the crowd.
Makes
And
sense.
I feel that the best way of being able to do that is with interactive experiences, highly personalized experiences,
Hmm.
um, or experiences in the physical with experiential and things like that. So that's where I think Future Deluxe is really well placed, because we're already exploring those areas with brands. We already
Yeah.
know that brands are thinking within the same vein as well. So as long as we continue doing what we're doing, which is just being really passionate about new technology and just jumping on the newest things in order to master them and understand how they work,
Yeah.
then I feel like it's just going to mean that we can do even more amazing stuff, probably for less money as well, or it will like open up the
Sure.
landscape for different areas and things like that. Um, but yeah, it's really exciting. I'm really excited by it all.
Yeah. Me too. I can't wait to see what happens.
Yeah, exactly.
um, And before we wrap up, I'm just going to switch gears a little bit and talk about maybe a couple more lighthearted questions just to get to know you a little better. So, when you step away from creating cutting edge content and leading your teams, what are some activities or hobbies that you are passionate about?
Yeah, so I'm a middle-aged man in Lycra. I absolutely love cycling. So when I'm not, I mean, I spend most of the day, at a laptop looking at a screen.
Yeah.
Um, so when I'm away from the laptop, I'm usually on my bike, cycling around, meeting up with friends to do some big cycles and things like that. So
That's cool.
yeah, absolutely love that. Big into road cycling. So yeah, I find that a lot of fun.
That's cool. I just like to, get out and see the sun sometimes.
Yeah. Well, I'm in England, so when the
Oh,
weather
well.
is sunny, it's lovely. But usually, I'm cycling around and it's raining and a little
Oh,
bit
yeah.
miserable. But no, I'm completely with you. If the sun's out, then I've got to be outside having a barbecue or something like that.
Yes. Yeah. And for those who are just starting out and looking to integrate AI technologies into their creative processes, what advice would you offer? Are there particular approaches or resources you'd recommend to help them navigate this evolving landscape?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I think it's so tricky, right?
Mm.
And I think there's a couple of different like points of view I have, but I think the main one is try and play with like every AI tool that is out there. The reason being is the fact that it's really difficult at the moment to predict which of these tools is going to stick around and which of these tools is going to be here in 5 years time or whatever, because there's so many different ones that are around at the moment. I
Right.
think that playing around with each of them, just giving yourself a an understanding of how each of them works, I think is really good. And I think just what I found from using various tools is that there are similarities between them, and then once you master one, you find that you can take some of those things you've learned and use that on different tools as well. But I think just that constant experimentation, um, like Runway has just gone through absolutely monumental,
Oh, yeah.
incredible changes recently, and using that is absolutely fantastic. And then like Create AI is doing some really exciting stuff at the moment as well. Um, And then like I'm always, going back to Midjourney and tinkering with Midjourney and playing
Mm.
around with the different versions that they create. And I think that, as a creative or anyone who's wanting to just keep up with what seems like this, bullet train moving at a million miles an hour, is
Yeah.
just signing up to each of these tools and just playing around with them. And then I think that whether this is like a personal project that someone wants to work on, or if it's, a project that comes through with work or something like that, when you have that kind of broad understanding of these different tools and their pros, their weaknesses, all this sort of thing, it just really gives you a good insight that when there's a particular task that you're not sure how to approach it, you've got this broad like knowledge of like, right, okay, for that one, I think like these two or three could work really well.
Mhm.
The other thing that I would recommend is like there's so many fantastic AI communities where people share art that they've created or share like learnings that they've created. I think there's fantastic people on LinkedIn as an example who also do tutorials around like different tools and things like that. So if people are strapped for time, and like YouTube's full of it as well, if people are strapped for time, I think those guys can be fantastic to just keep a kind of top level understanding of things. Um, and then yeah, if there's a particular aesthetic that gets people really excited, or there's a particular piece of content that someone has created, I found, at least anyway, that people seem to be really open and excited to share with people around the workflow that they've had and how they've come to that end result. So I think just like reaching out to people, asking them how they did what they did, people seem really, really happy to share that. So I think all of those things kind of combined will just give people a good foundation to build upon.
Yeah, that's great advice. Well, thank you so much for sharing your insights and experiences today. I know I've appreciated the your perspectives on blending the technology and creativity, and it's really been a pleasure learning more about your inspiring work at Future Deluxe. So we appreciate you taking the time to join us and enriching our understanding of the future of creative technologies.
No worries at all. Thank you very much for
Mhm.
having me. It was
Oh
great to
yeah.
chat.
Yes, I think so too. It's a lot of fun. And for more information about Future Deluxe and to see examples of their projects, you can visit their website, futuredeluxe.com. And to our audience, thank you for joining us. We look forward to bringing you more conversations of AI's impact into our world. Keeping you connected to tomorrow. Today, this is Alicia with AInews.com.